So, basketball's funny. This is where I totally separate from people on the internet. So for me, like basketball, I want guys who play defense. That's why I never really bought into like the Westbrook phenomenon or the James Harden phenomenon like everybody else. They just play no defense. Carmelo Anthony, I never bought into him. He'd score 28, he'd give up 24. No leadership. I think leadership matters. I think, do you play at least some defense? Are you good late? Are you dependable? Can you be somebody I can build a culture around? But everybody in this basketball world, I feel like I'm on an island of sanity. Everybody's like, triple-double. Russell Westbrook has never been the most valuable player on his own team. He's the most talented in Oklahoma City when Durant left. But I don't think he translates value. So I just don't get it. So I was thinking of all the players left right now in the NBA. To me, here's my top 10 most valuable players. Valuable. I would start with Draymond Green. He is, after Steph Curry, he's the heart and soul of this franchise for 10 years. He always shoots well in the playoffs. He's shooting almost 55%. And they've outscored opponents by 70 points when he's on the floor and been outscored significantly. Go ahead, push it. When he's not. So Draymond Green, 10. Number 9, Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy's a great athlete, and he tends to be a very good post-season player. Like, he steps his game up in the playoffs, which I love. He outscored Trae Young in that series. He's an athlete more than a closer. You could even see last night. He's a guy I think you can build a culture around because he's so committed to defense. He's so committed to playing hard every night. So Jimmy Butler, number 9. I would say Devin Booker is 8, a better offensive player than Jimmy Butler. And he's averaging almost 25 a night. You saw how valuable he was in the playoffs when he was gone for a couple games. He's their get-a-bucket guy. This is the simplest way to put it. They're 52-10 when Chris Paul and Devin Booker play. So when these guys are both hitting their shots, this backcourt is lethal. You get the athletic 2, you get the feisty IQ 1, the mid-range guy, Devin Booker at 8. Number 7 would be Luka. I think he's a defensive liability. His fourth quarter success can dip like last night. But he is, on any given night, the great scorer in the league. You can't stop him. There's a Harden quality. He's a bigger, stronger Harden that he can get 45 points a night, and it doesn't feel like it's that strenuous. So, he's averaging also 4 made threes per playoff game. That is a ton. Number 6, I'd rate him higher, Ja Morant, because I think he maintains his energy throughout. And he also leads all remaining players in clutch scoring. That is I don't have the numbers in front of me. I got to believe that's a very rare accomplishment for a player this young to lead the playoffs in clutch scoring. He also is a very good rebounder. When he came into the league, I said he's Westbrook, but a more self-aware player and a much better facilitator. He's averaging 8 assists in 7 straight playoff games. So I do worry about his sustainability because he's 174 pounds and he finishes too often, in my opinion, at the rim, but I'd put him 6. I would put Jason Tatum 5, much better defensive wing. He's really built himself into a great defensive player on the wing. He outplayed KD in that series. Second most points scored in NBA history by a player before he turned 23. He was friends with Kobe. He practiced with Kobe. Kobe kind of monitored him and mentored him. He just gets a little better every year. And again, I think he's a guy you can build a culture around. He wins the right way, practices the right way. Number 4, Steph Curry, like Jimmy Butler, always seems to get to the playoffs and say, all right, let's put the playoff gloves on, and just plays a little better. He's the leading scorer for the best offense in the playoffs. And, what do you want to say? I think he's the best shooter and the best ball handler in the sport. And when he's healthy, there's just nothing quite like him in the history of the league. Number 3, because you can get the mid-range game and the download scoring, I would say Joel Embiid. I do worry about sustainability long-term, but he's given you 30 and 10 in playoff games. And he can be a force inside. He can be an intimidator. He can pull up and give you a jumper. He's the closest thing to Shaq in the league. He is just a powerful force on both ends and a rim protector. Number 2, you saw it again last night, Chris Paul. Leads every single playoff player in fourth quarter scoring. The fact that the narrative is he's not clutch, he's actually the most clutch guy in the playoffs in the fourth quarter last couple of years. Blame some of his struggles on Blake or Doc Rivers or James Harden. Don't blame him. And he's 9-1 in his career against Luka. He not only dominated the fourth, he went after Luka. He sought Luka. He attacked Luka. Chris Paul. And number 1, I think he's the best player in the game, and I felt that since the end of last year. Many people felt that 3 years ago. He'd be my MVP, Giannis. Listen, Chris Middleton got hurt, and the 5 games he got hurt, 4 blowout wins. So, best defensive player at any moment in the NBA on the defensive end, most dominating closer on the offensive end. He is now, with increased ball handling over the last several years, their facilitator. His assists go up. I also think, Boston's making it difficult for him, so this is going to be a little ugly, an inartistic series. But to me, he's the best guy in the league. The other thing I like? When you look at all these guys, all good dudes. I know you all think Draymond's a villain, but sports is in a really good space right now. Now, Luka he gets feisty with refs, with a fan last night. But by and large, I'd be incredibly comfortable building my culture around this. I trust these guys. I'd pay them. If I was an apparel company, I'd have them as endorsers. I'm not going to get in trouble. These are really smart, high IQ, self-aware. Most of these guys, Luka's so young, he's kind of figuring things out. Right now, Luka doesn't pace himself quite like Chris Paul does, whereas he gets 3 points. Chris Paul's scoring in the playoffs. 3 points in the first quarter, 5 in the second, third, and then 10 in the fourth. Like Chris has been playing this game so long. There was a break last night for Phoenix. There was a fast break opportunity, and Chris just said, no, I'm just going to play at my own pace. He completely controls the tempo of the game. Like nobody does it like Chris Paul. Mark Schlereth, 3 Super Bowl champs, 2 Pro Bowlers. Well, teams have talked about this for years. Port cities. LA's got a port. Miami's got a port. New Orleans has a port. New York's a port city. There's others, but coastal cities can often be harder to manage your players. Players are young. They've got a lot of money. They're in great shape. Port cities tend to be very active nightlifes. There's a lot going on in port cities. And so it is, I think it's really interesting why I have so much respect for the Miami Heat organization. It's hard to be focused in Miami. I mean, the water's aqua blue. The people are beautiful. There's no state tax. You keep more of your money. And there's a lot to do in Miami. I mean, Miami is one of the great 3-day cities in America. It's probably my favorite. And I'm older. Like, I'm not staying out all night. But when I go to Miami, even I go sideways. And so it is harder to build a great culture in these cities. The Marlins have been a mess forever. The Dolphins can't get their act together. Miami Hurricane football's been uneven. And here are the Heat year after year after year after year. The rebuilds are quick. I mean, all these big, heavily discussed cities, New York, Philadelphia, D.C., Boston, the only Eastern Seaboard franchise in the league that is well-run is Miami. And I'd argue it's the hardest city to be well-run in. There's a lot of distractions. Now, can you win a title in the NBA without an A-plus star? Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo's back, Tyler Hero, excellent players. But what Miami proves is that a great culture, a commitment to chemistry, the right coach, defense, and a bench can go a long way. They're a number 1 seed. That you don't have to sell your soul or sell your identity to be formidable. Brooklyn sold their soul. They had chemistry, a good coach. Players liked each other. They sold their soul for 2 stars. Swept. Out in the first round 2 of the last 3 years. Lakers had a lot of young players. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma. They sold it all out. Couldn't make the playoffs. There's something to be said about commitment on both ends. Miami's athletic, deep, they got a bench, and they demand a lot from their players. in a league where the players run it, and that's okay, since I was a little kid in the Pacific Northwest. Spencer Haywood, the Stars had the power over the front office. That's okay. And I don't know if they'll win titles, but a great example of what the Miami Heat are is Tyler Hero. It's classic Pat Riley. So they draft him. They get him a bit of a steal, 13th, and he stars first year in the bubble. Like 13th pick. I mean, come on. You get these kids out of college now, even the really good ones. They don't really connect unless they're a John Morant by like year 2 or 3 or 4. So Tyler Hero comes in and just explodes in the bubble. Year 2, a lot of Miami nightlife. Reportedly, got a little sideways. Struggled year 2. But at the end of year 2, Pat Riley calls him out, holds him accountable, rips him publicly. Who are you? I've had a lot better players around here than Tyler Hero. And now in year 3, 6th Man of the Year award. That's the Miami Heat. And they deserve a lot of credit. It is easy to get into trouble in Miami. It is nothing against Milwaukee, but that town just screams afternoon nap and bed by 8:45. Nothing against Cleveland.